in season 2, which
I think it says a lot about me that a guy with the last name Cox is I immediately remember what his name is.
Cox, his last name's Cox.
I always have Cox on the tip of my tongue. Hey guys, welcome to episode 50 of the Nerd You're Looking For podcast, a weekly nerd culture podcast that discusses the culture through various segments. My name is Patrick Kuhn, alongside my co-host, sidekick, Tyler Hunt. How's it going, man?
I'm not your fucking sidekick.
Come on, you're totally my sidekick.
I saw you glaring at me as you said that too, like you were just gonna say it to get a reaction.
Yeah. Basically, a lot of this podcast is just me trolling you.
I mean, I feel like that's our friendship.
Oh yeah, for
just
sure.
Trolling each other.
Yeah,
so
for sure. Well, anyways, normally we just go ahead and get into what we're into, which is obviously our first segment. But before we get started, I just want to give you guys a heads up. Next week, our episode's going to be a little bit, I guess, weird. It's going to be a little bit different. Tyler is going out of town next weekend, which is normally when we record. So we're going to do kind of a impromptu, like, not necessarily quick episode, but it might be a little bit shorter than normal. We may do a full Arkham Knight review and then a top 5 favorite movies of 2015 so far, but we haven't quite hammered out the details. So we're definitely going to be posting something next week, so don't worry about that, but we just haven't quite decided what that's going to be yet. All right. Well, like I mentioned before, we start every episode off by just kind of checking in with each other. We call it what we're into. So, Tyler, what are you into?
I'm going to go ahead and talk about Ted 2 a little bit.
All right, cool.
I saw this a few weeks ago. Me and my wife went and saw it, and it was actually better than I expected. I didn't really expect much out of this movie, and it was by no means great. I would give it probably 3 out of 5 stars. It's not as strong as the original, and it's definitely not as original as the first one. I mean, it's a sequel, so that's to be expected. But this one's basically, it's just a stoner comedy. Like, obviously, they smoked a lot of pot in the first one, but there was a lot more to it than them just being potheads. This movie has a lot of stoner movie tropes. Like, they stumble across a weed, or a field of weed, and that kind of stuff. So, something that you would think that you would find in like a Cheech and Chong movie, or Harold and Kumar, or something like that. Which, I mean, doesn't say it's bad or anything. It's just a little tired, in my opinion. But there was still a lot of hilarious lines and a lot of hilarious gags. One of my favorites is when Ted is talking about how he can't be considered a human, but that soccer mom looking Goonie monster Steven Tyler can, which, me and my wife are still laughing about. But, there's a lot of funny lines. It's definitely better than A Million Ways to Die in the West. That movie was awful. So yeah, Ted 2, I'd say 3 out of 5 stars.
Yeah, I was actually really pleasantly surprised with the first one. I think you dragged me to it. I wasn't expecting to really like it, but I did. I liked it a lot. And then when I heard they were making a sequel, I kind of have my reservations about comedy sequels, and I've talked about that before. And especially, I'm not a huge Seth MacFarlane fan. I used to like Family Guy, but once you kind of understand, then it's just a series of jokes that don't really make a whole lot of sense, and nothing really follows any kind of plot whatsoever. That's just a series of random jokes, and some of them aren't even jokes. I've kind of lost my Family Guy fandom, or whatever you want to call it. So I was pleasantly surprised with how much I like Ted. I probably won't see Ted 2 just because I haven't heard good things. I've heard it's a lot like a Family Guy episode where it's just a bunch of random jokes strung together.
Oh, for sure.
The trailers didn't really impress me that much, especially the Sam Jackson joke.
Yeah.
He's any black guy in every movie or whatever they say. I was just like, that's such an old joke.
Yeah.
It's not even a unique thought. And so that kind of bugged me.
The thing about this movie is it's not really sure what it wants to be. Like I said, it's a stoner comedy, but in the next scene, it's, you know, Ted's fighting for his rights, and it almost seems like it's trying to convey a message. Like they even directly compare it to the fight for equal marriage and that kind of stuff. So it's a little bit preachy in a few parts, but that's completely taken away from like the dick and fart jokes.
Yeah. Is Morgan Freeman in this movie? I heard that he was.
He's in like 2 scenes.
Oh, okay. So Morgan Freeman will just do anything now?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I don't want to spoil too much, but Liam Neeson has a cameo in it as well.
Of course he does.
And it's actually pretty funny.
But you brought up A Million Ways to Die in the West. I fucking hated that movie.
The movie was bullshit.
Oh my God, it was so bad.
It was awful.
Yeah, I hated it. But anyways, that's Ted 2.
Yeah, Ted 2. For sure. What are you into?
I'm also into a movie. It's a little bit more of an indie movie. It's called Kumiko The Treasure Hunter. I swear to God, I've seen this movie before.
Are you allowed to be into something that you don't know the name of?
It's a Japanese name. If you listen to the podcast, you know I'm terrible with names. So I apologize for that. No, the movie was really good. I enjoyed it. It wasn't quite what I thought it was going to be. Basically, it's based on this urban legend that people have actually believed that Fargo is actually happened. The events of Fargo actually happened because the Coen brothers did put in this little thing that it's based on a true story or whatever. It's not based on a true story. It's loosely based on a couple of crimes, I think, that happened in Minnesota, something like that. And so they put that at the beginning to kind of have people actually really, really get into the movie and they thought it was a true story. Well, I guess there's like this urban legend out there that people really believe that it was a true story. And Steve Buscemi's character at one point buries this money in snow. And so there's been people, according to what I've read, that have actually gone out and looked for this money because they thought it actually had. And there's this urban legend about this Japanese, I almost call her Chinese. I apologize for that. Japanese woman who died trying to find this money, and she like froze to death. While this movie is loosely based on that, it turns out that that wasn't why she was out there, and she actually committed suicide and all this other stuff. But anyways.
Sounds awesome.
This movie is based on that story. Kind of that urban legend that the main character in this movie, Kumiko, God damn it, Kumiko. I don't know why I can't say her name. She really believes that Fargo is a true story, and she spends all of her free time like studying a VHS tape of it and like rewinding it and trying to like place where the money would be. And she builds like this, or she like stitches this map where she thinks the money would be buried. It's kind of disappointing because I really like Fargo. It's one of my favorite movies. And I thought that there would be more of the movie, kind of like the mythology behind it and this urban legend and everything else. But it's really much more of a character study. The woman in it is just really depressed. She doesn't have very many friends. Her job sucks. She doesn't get much satisfaction out of really anything. Her mother is like, she's very traditional, and the woman is like 28 or 29 and she's not engaged or married or whatever. And I guess in traditional Japanese culture, that's really weird. In America, that's not that big of a deal. But over there, apparently it's a pretty big deal. So her mother is constantly in the movie calling her, why aren't you engaged yet? Are you dating anyone? All this other stuff. Did you get a promotion at work? So she doesn't really get much satisfaction. And so she's kind of looking for something to give her that pleasure, like that satisfaction. So she really kind of dives into this mythology behind Fargo, and she eventually steals her boss's credit card, flies to America, and tries to find this money, but she's completely ill prepared. Like, she doesn't speak English very well. The few scenes that were, it's considered a dark comedy, but the few scenes that were really funny are just kind of like awkward funny. Yeah. Like at one point, a state trooper finds her because she's not dressed for Fargo. And at one point she goes to a hotel and she cuts a whole lot of the blanket and that she just puts it over her. Cause she's not dressed at all. And so the state trooper finds her because she's just walking down the side of the road with a blanket over her head. And so he can't communicate to her. And so he takes her to a Chinese restaurant. So the person that runs the Chinese restaurant can communicate with her, but she's Japanese, so they don't speak the same language. It was just really awkward. And I think that kind of humor is really hilarious. And so it's much more of a character study. And I mean, I really enjoyed it. It felt more like a foreign film. Like halfway through it, I actually looked it up. It's an American film, but it feels like a foreign film because the first half of it, there are a lot of subtitles because they are speaking Japanese. It's really, it focuses a lot on Japanese culture. Like I said, her mother is very traditional. Her job is an office girl. That is her title. That is what they're called. Apparently she works in this office building and she wears like what would look like a Catholic schoolgirl outfit. Like that's her uniform. It's very weird. And so it felt like a foreign film, but it's an American film. So it's kind of a unique film. And I mean, I enjoyed it. I just kind of wish there was a little bit more of Fargo in there. Yeah. Like once you get past like that's what she's doing, they don't really show Fargo much. And I mean, it makes sense because that's not what this movie's about. It's really about her and it's a character study. But I would have enjoyed it a little bit more if there was a little bit more of the actual Fargo movie in this movie.
It sounds really weird.
Yeah, it is very, and the ending is very weird. It was just one of those things I try to I like indie movies. Yeah. I'm kind of a hipster. And so I like to find those little indie movies that nobody knows about.
I saw you on social media, like you were really excited whenever it was.
Yeah, I had heard about it about 4 or 5 months ago, and I was just kind of waiting for it to be on video on demand. And it just now got released the other day. So I was really looking forward to seeing it. If I had to give it a rating, I would probably give it 3 out of 5. Like I enjoyed it. I would recommend it if you're like me that kind of likes those like dark indie comedies, but I wouldn't expect that much. Like it's slow at certain spots, but like I said, it's a character study. So it's kind of a slow burn.
Okay, cool. I'll have to check it out.
Yep. That's what I'm into. So our next segment is just plainly called comics. We just spotlight one of the comic books that we're reading. So Tyler, what are you reading this week?
I am reading a Secret Wars tie-in that just came out this week called Civil War #1.
Yep.
Which is obviously pretty much linked to the Civil War comic run from, I believe, 2006 by Mark Millar and somebody else. I can't remember who. But obviously that's a very famous storyline. It's probably being loosely adapted for the next Captain America movie that comes out next year. That comic, if you're not familiar, is, to basically sum it up really quick, is there's a superhero registration act and Iron Man is for it and Captain America is against it, and it causes a split amongst Marvel heroes in the Marvel universe, and a quote unquote civil war ensues. So that being said, this is like I said, a Secret Wars tie-in. So it's a really weird comic, kind of like how Renew Your Vows, the Amazing Spider-Man comic we've talked about a couple of times, is weird. It doesn't take place it doesn't seem like it takes place in the same area that the Secret Wars takes place.
Is it like a one-shot sort of thing?
No, because there's going to be more.
Yeah.
But it reminds me of like a what if.
Yeah, okay.
So like Renew Your Vows is almost like, well, what if this happened to Spider-Man? This is like, so at the end of Civil War, there's this big battle in Prison 42, and that kind of leads to the end. This is basically saying what if during that battle there's a bomb set to go off and kill all of the heroes in Prison 42, and Black Panther's trying to disarm it, and he's unsuccessful, and the superhero Cloak, who has teleporting abilities, is basically teleporting out as many heroes as he can. But there's a lot of casualties. And after this bomb goes off, basically the country gets divided into the east half, which is called Iron, and the west half, which is called Blue. So obviously Iron Man's half is the east half and Captain America's half is the west half. And each half goes by different rules and regulations. Both are considered safe, but it's a civil war and they hate each other and they consider each other to be in a war still. So a lot of years go by, and I mean, Tony Stark's gray-haired and older, And, I forget what the character's name is. Damn it. Miriam Sharp, who is a character in Civil War, basically brings Tony Stark and Captain America together in St. Louis, or what used to be St. Louis, because that's kind of what they're saying is the middle of the country, to come to terms to end the war. And there's an assassination attempt and things go wrong, and the comic basically ends with what you believe is going to be an all-out war that's going to lead into number 2. There's a lot of cool characters in it. Spider-Man's in it, but he's almost like a Falcon type character. He has wings.
That's weird.
So in the future, obviously, in the right where you pick up from the original Civil War, from 2006, he's normal Spider-Man. But once you flash forward to the future and what the country's kind of become, he's almost like, he's Captain America's right-hand man, but he has like mechanical wings and doesn't wear a mask. And it's kind of weird, but it's also pretty cool. So, I mean,
now that just sounds weird.
Yeah. You'll like it if you like Secret Wars, because it's not half as weird as what Secret Wars is, but it's pretty cool. I like the idea of these stories that are kind of like what ifs. I don't think that it's going to have any implications when Secret Wars is done, but it's kind of cool to get this story. I was a little worried about it because I thought it just might be a cash grab since Civil War is on everybody's mind for the movie next year, but it does something kind of unique, and I'd recommend it for sure.
All right. I definitely picked it up. I spent about $60 on at the comic shop the other day. I picked it up. I had not gotten a chance to read it yet, but yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. It sounds interesting. Sounds weird, but I like weird, so yeah, it should be good.
All right, cool. What are you into?
Well, speaking of Secret Wars, I'm going to talk about Secret Wars number 4, which just came out, I guess, last week.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because I got it through Midtown, and I've talked a lot about that, where I'll always get it that following Monday.
I haven't read it yet.
Oh, yeah? I promise you I don't pick Secret Wars just to troll you. Even though, it is pretty hilarious. And I just don't get it. I don't get why you don't like it. Like, I really enjoy this book. I look forward to reading it. I also look forward to telling you how wrong you are, but I really enjoyed it. And I thought this was probably the best issue so far. I really enjoyed how it was a kind of a Doom character study. I really enjoyed how they talked a lot about how he's changed and how he views himself as a god and how that came to be. And I love the dynamic between him and Strange. I thought that was really well done. I love that Thanos is in it. Like, there's a cliffhanger at the end of Secret Wars number 3, and Thanos is about to fight the Thor Corps.
You can't even say it with a straight face, and you say it's awesome.
No, I just, that's the best name for a superhero team ever. Jesus. The Thor Corps. Anyways, it plays out pretty awesome in number 4. I wish that Thanos was a bigger part of the end of this particular issue, because I just love him. He's such a badass villain. It's really much more of him, Doom and, Doctor Strange kind of squaring off at the end. And I really appreciate their dynamic. And you get to kind of see a little bit of a softer side of Doom in this book that I really like.
Maybe I've missed it, or maybe they haven't explained it yet, but why is Doctor Strange a pussy in Secret Wars and basically catering to Doctor Doom? Is it ever has it been explained yet?
It's kind of been hinted that he just didn't want it. He didn't want that power. He didn't want that. I don't know if he didn't necessarily want the responsibility, but it just kind of, I don't think they've really explained it. I don't think they've laid it out on the table. I feel like they did a decent job of explaining it in 4, and I'm just not doing a very good job of explaining it now, but I just feel like he had a choice and Doom wanted it and he didn't, so.
Yeah. You know what the best part about issue 4 is?
What?
We're halfway done with Secret Wars, thank God.
I really enjoy it, and I don't get why you don't.
Maybe I'll see the light. I'm really loving these tie-ins.
Oh, yeah?
So all of these crazy tie-ins like Civil War and Renew Your Vows, and Old Man Logan's not too bad.
I haven't read the Old Man Logan yet.
There's a few others I picked up that I haven't read yet, like Planet Hulk. But
I picked the 2 issues of Planet Hulk. I haven't watched them. God damn it. I haven't read them yet.
No, but I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff going on around it. It's just the stuff concerning Battle World and like this main story.
I was just going to ask you if you liked Battle World because I like that.
I haven't read the Battle World because I hate Battle World and
they're
Secret
weird.
Wars. Like the Thor Corps, like I just can't do that. I can't do that shit. So, but these cool little one-off stories are awesome. So I will give them that.
Okay, cool, man.
I hit a new milestone with my comic book collecting. I had to buy another long box this week.
Oh yeah?
So,
I'm getting there.
Yeah, I'm almost thinking ahead, like, when is Brittany gonna cut me off? When is she gonna like, you have way too many comic books, because she's already told me in our next house, in my nerd room, I have toys and stuff hanging on the wall. She's like, when we get another house, you're not fucking hanging toys on the wall.
Why does it matter?
That's what I told her. I'm like, why does it matter? She goes, why can't you put them on shelves? It's like, I don't have enough shelf space. I have tons of wall space.
Yeah.
She just doesn't get it, man.
Bitches be crazy.
All right, man. You ready to move on?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So nerd news. Every week we talk about any and all pop culture nerdy news that has come out since the last time we recorded. So unfortunately, we're recording this on Friday, and the Saturday is whenever all the shit's going to go down at Comic-Con. So we missed it by a day, but there's still some cool stuff that's come out of Comic-Con and some cool rumors. So we'll go ahead and talk about that. And then maybe next episode or the episode after, we'll have hopefully some meaty stuff to talk about. But the first one that came out is that Han Solo is getting an anthology film.
Yes.
And it is going to be directed by Chris Lord and Phil Miller, who are from the Lego Movie and Last Man on Earth and the Jump Street movies. So
basically everything they touch is gold. It's fantastic. They have not been involved in a project that I disliked. Last Man on Earth is hilarious. Yep. Jump Street movies, even though 22 was all right, I didn't like it as much as the first one. It was fantastic. The Lego Movie it had every reason to be bad, and it's just fantastic.
It is. No, I'm really looking forward to that, especially with a character like Han Solo. There was this leaked image saying this was the, basically the lineup of Star Wars movies over the next few years that they're going to debut at Comic-Con. And there was some evidence that kind of debunked it. So I don't know if it's true or not, but that image showed it being a Boba Fett / Han Solo.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up or not.
So that would be pretty fucking awesome. But I don't know. We'll have to wait and see what
I don't know how I feel about it, because it seems like if you put those two together, you're not overcrowding the movie. It's just, you're not giving each of those characters their due. They're big enough characters that they could hold their own movie.
Yeah, I agree. For sure. You could kind of see how each of them come to be, and they don't have to be linked together for all of eternity.
Yeah.
I think the Han Solo story is especially cool because you can do stuff with him on Kashyyyk, meeting Chewbacca.
For sure.
And how they become that duo.
Have you ever read, it's not canon now, obviously, but have you ever read Death Troopers?
No, I haven't.
It's basically a zombie novel that happens within the Star Wars universe, and Han and Chewie play a pretty big part. I'm not completely through it. I'm bad with reading regular big boy books. So it takes me forever to get through it. I'm about 3/4 of the way through it, and it's really good. I like it a lot.
I wanted to say I saw it sitting around here somewhere one day.
Yeah, it's in my living room.
Okay, yeah, that's where I've seen it then.
Yeah.
So we'll move on. So going from Han Solo to Chewbacca, Chewbacca's also kind of getting, I wouldn't say an origin story, but a prequel story. But his isn't coming in the form of a movie. They announced at Comic-Con that he was getting a miniseries comic book. So all of these characters are getting miniseries, and I haven't been too excited about some of them, like Princess Leia, and I'm not honestly that excited about the Lando comic.
I bought it, but I'm not really.
I didn't pick it
itching to read it.
But I'll pick up Chewbacca.
Oh yeah, for sure. That'd be awesome.
That'd be a cool prequel story. So that'd be coming our way. And then one more Star Wars story. Again, this one's not confirmed, but speculation is that they'll confirm it at Comic-Con, and that's that Colin Trevorrow, who directed Jurassic World and Safety Not Guaranteed, is going to direct Episode 9.
That'd be pretty awesome.
Yeah, so that means JJ's doing Episode 7, Episode 8 is Rian Johnson, who did Looper, and then Episode 9 would be Colin Trevorrow. So that's a pretty cool lineup, and I was a little nervous at first that they're going different director for each movie, but then when you look back at the original trilogy, that's exactly how the original trilogy went.
for sure.
So I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I liked Safety Not Guaranteed. I like Jurassic World. So, I mean, he has yet to do a bad movie as far as I'm concerned.
All right, cool. So we'll move over to the Marvel side of things now. Elektra is going to be in Daredevil season 2.
For sure.
Elodie Young has been cast as Elektra.
Never seen her in anything.
She was in the G.I. Joe Retaliation movie.
Oh, I take that back. I have seen that movie.
Have you? Is it bad?
Yes.
Okay.
For sure.
I never saw it, but I assume it was bad.
When I was on third shift, I watched a lot of shitty movies because I watched just a ton of movies because what else is there going to do at 3:00 in the morning?
Yeah. Man, that sounds awesome. It
was actually pretty cool. I mean, I never got any sleep, but I got to watch a lot of movies.
There was a set picture released. Yeah, I mean, it didn't really show anything. It just showed Matt Murdock. God damn it, what's the actor's name? Charlie
Cox.
Charlie Cox on set of Daredevil, and they're filming season 2, which
I think it says a lot about me that a guy with the last name Cox is I immediately remember what his name is.
Cox. His last name's Cox.
I always have Cox on the tip of my tongue. God damn it. I wouldn't have slept well if I didn't make that joke, but it hurt a little bit. Anyways, continue.
I was just going to say it's awesome that they're filming season 2, but
okay, cool. I mean, she looks a lot like Elektra. I just haven't seen anything or her in anything, but I mean, Daredevil was awesome. So I trust what they're doing.
I'm just so excited for season 2. It's awesome that we don't have to sit around and wait for it. Like it's coming next year. So that's great. Let's see.
Cox is coming next year.
That's right. He is. Let's stay on the Marvel side of things. Marissa Tomei is going to be Aunt May in the new Spider-Man series. So that's happening. I think she's a fine actress. She's not bad, but
she's too young.
Yeah, you tweeted that, and that's exactly what I thought. And I don't know, there's a joke to be made there about saying she's too young, I guess, but I mean, she's too young. Aunt May has always been portrayed as not elderly, but as an older woman. I thought that, what's her face?
Sally Field?
Yeah, Sally Field. I thought that she was almost too young.
Yeah,
she didn't look the part. And now you go even younger to like this lady that's in her early 40s or whatever, however old she is.
She's gotta be in her 50s, right?
All right. Maybe she's in her 50s. Yeah. I don't know. Now I want to look it up. It's not worth it.
No, it's not. It's really not.
I don't know. The last movie I remember her in is The Wrestler, and she's stripping in that movie. So
yeah, I wasn't impressed.
Yeah. But I don't want my Aunt May to be a stripper, you know?
I'd be okay with it. It'd be a choice.
I mean, obviously this Spider-Man's super young. He's probably going to be like 16 in the movie, but still Aunt May's always just been older, like not a little bit helpless in a way. So
yeah, I think we're beating this.
All right. In that case, we'll move right along. I thought this next story was kind of funny because I don't think there's any truth to it. Wesley Snipes came out and said that he's met with Marvel about portraying the Blade character again.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about Jon Stewart. He was going to be Green Arrow. Or now Green Lantern. Sorry. I fucked that joke all up.
Did you not see this?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, Wesley Snipes came out and he's like, yeah, I've talked to Marvel about doing Blade again, or maybe doing something else in the Marvel universe and being a part of it. And I think that he is full of shit. I think maybe Marvel took a meeting with him to kind of just say, hey, we did this. Like, thank you for making those Blade movies 10 years ago. But there's no fucking way that he's going to be Blade again.
No, he's way too old. Yeah. I mean, he was awesome Blade. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, I love those movies. Well, I love the first 2 of those movies, and Trinity's not that great.
Yeah, but I mean, if he had a meeting with Marvel, it was they did it to humor him, and he got the wrong message, because there's no way. They got the characters' rights back. There hasn't been a Blade movie in over 10 years. This is the perfect time to recast it and kind of find a way to put him into the Marvel universe. I know there was a rumor that some characters like that would be getting their own shows maybe on Netflix eventually, like him and Ghost Rider and those characters that are a little harder to crack. Who knows if that'd be true, but I can guarantee it won't be Wesley Snipes.
Oh, no, for sure.
All right, that's it from Marvel. The only other thing I have is something I just read before we started recording. Apparently in November, there's going to be a mini-series, Batman Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comic crossover.
Is it like cartoon crossover or is it like
comic?
No, I mean like the cartoon versions. Like, is it going to be the comic versions or the because I'd be cool with it if it's because they're both pretty dark.
Yeah, I know it says it's going to take place in Gotham. The art for it is not cartoony. The art for it is very serious. Like here, I'll show you the art.
Yeah, I mean, I'm digging that.
Like, I don't know if I just
which probably doesn't go very well over an audio podcast.
Yeah, I mean,
look at this awesome picture that you guys can't see.
There'll be a link in the show notes, but it looks very.
You keep saying that, but I'm the one that has to do that.
Well, you put a link to the every show notes, so. But it looks very earnest, so that's pretty cool. I know it's two of my favorite groups of characters and two of your favorite groups of characters as well. And I also think it's cool that two comic companies like IDW and DC are teaming up to do this. I would hope that it would open doors to do future crossovers like this.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, man. That's all I have for nerd news.
All right. So the next segment is just what we dubbed a main topic. It just kind of changes episode to episode. Game of Thrones season 5 ended about a month ago, and we are going to do a episode by episode recap of season 5. Season 5 ran from April 12th, 2015 to June 14th, 2015. And I have to be honest, we did this with Daredevil as well. Season 1 of Daredevil. We're going to run it kind of the same way where we go episode by episode. So if you haven't seen episode 6 through 10, you probably should stop listening after we talk about episode 5 because we're going to spoil the shit out of this. Because how can you talk about a show like this with so many different threads without spoiling stuff? So we're going to try to keep the spoilers contained to each episode and the episodes we've already previously talked about. But I'm sorry, you've been warned. We're not going to say spoiler alert every time. So here's your spoiler alert. If you don't want to listen, if you don't want something spoiled, don't listen to us talk about that particular episode. So that being said, I think we should start a new drinking game because I'm going to do my synopsis for each episode. I'm going to fuck these names up. So if you guys want to play along, every time I fuck up a name, you can take a shot. And that'll be a fun little game for you guys to play because it's going to be awful. I have to be honest though. Normally I write these myself, but because there's so much stuff going on in these episodes, I had to go to IMDb. So these are just the generic IMDb synopsis. I didn't want anybody to think that I was ripping IMDb off. So before we get into each episode, Tyler, do you want to go ahead and kind of give a broad strokes? Normally what we do, when we do a review.
Yeah, that's great. Watching this season I watched the season episode by episode. I didn't wait till it was over or anything like I do with other shows. So watching this season episode by episode, I was personally never bored. But when I went back and kind of refreshed my memory on some of these episodes towards the beginning, not a lot really happens. There's stuff that happens to move the plot along, but nothing really monumental happens till probably episode 7 or 8. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like I said, watching it episode to episode, it didn't feel that way. It's just kind of in retrospect, that's the way it kind of seems. But all in all, a lot of cool stuff happened this season. I found it honestly a lot easier to follow than I have some of the other seasons. There were episodes in past seasons when there's just so many stories going on. I would have to Wikipedia an episode after I finished it to refresh myself on names and what exactly was happening just because there was so much going on and so many new characters introduced. But by season 5, so many people have been killed off.
Yeah.
It's kind of narrowed it down a little bit. Yeah,
they're thinning the herd a little bit.
Yeah, so for me, it was a little easier to follow than maybe some of the past seasons. But yeah, a lot of cool stuff happened. I have a lot of friends that are big into the books and also watch the show. And they were apparently they're straying a lot away from.
Yeah, this was from what I've read, looking into this season, doing kind of some prep work for this episode. This is the season where they went the furthest from the books. Like there's entire plot lines in this season that aren't in the books at all.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's awesome. I like that they're kind of doing their own thing. Apparently the showrunners know George R.R. Martin's endgame and they're just kind of taking a different way to get there now. And I'm totally cool with that. So I like that everybody's going to be surprised and that there's not much left that the book readers can spoil for us show watchers.
Yeah.
So yeah, broad strokes.
Yeah, I actually kind of had a different reaction to this show this season. the first few episodes were pretty boring. I mean, well, not the first episode, the season premiere I thought was pretty good, but for the most part, I was kind of bored watching this. But then when I went back to kind of refresh my memory for this episode, I remembered, oh yeah, that happened in that episode. That was actually really interesting. So the more I like research each episode to kind of refresh my memory, the more I think I appreciated some of the nuances. So I actually had more appreciation for this season and some of these episodes as I went along. But it was definitely a slow burn this season. This show, like you mentioned, is kind of infamous for killing off some of its characters. The reason why people get frustrated and get upset that they kill off certain characters is because they've fallen in love with these characters, because there's episodes that build this character for them. They start to really care for these characters and to learn to love them. And then when they get killed off, that's why it's so devastating for them. So I really appreciated some of these earlier episodes that I didn't really like the first time around. So I kind of had a different reaction the first time versus kind of refreshing my memory for this episode. So episode 1 is titled The Wars to Come. It was released on April 12th. My little synopsis is Cersei and Jaime adjust to a world without Tywin. Tyrone and Varys arrive at Petos. Shut up. I really, honestly, once I started reading this, I was like, God damn it, I don't want to do this for every episode. All right.
Take a shot.
Yeah, as it continues. In Mirin, I guess is what it's called. A new enemy emerges. Jon is caught between two kings. Yeah, it's only gonna get worse. So how'd you feel about the first episode?
I felt like it was a pretty adequate opening for the season. It kind of lets you know of the season's intentions, and it really set up each character really well to let you know what direction they were headed in for the season. So nothing monumental, I think, happened. I really liked the cliffhanger with Jon. Well, Jon doesn't do it, but the Night's Watch burn Mance, the leader of the wildlings.
Yeah.
And,
well, I mean, obviously Jon has a huge part.
Yeah. I mean, he, I don't think he's the Lord Commander just yet in this episode.
No, he doesn't become Lord Commander until later.
Yeah, but he puts Mance out of his misery by shooting him in the heart with an arrow. So that was a pretty cool ending. But again, nothing monumental happens this episode. It's just kind of, starting us off, letting us know where our characters are and where they're headed. So pretty adequate opening, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed the flashback, which is surprising because I don't really like flashbacks mostly. I think it's kind of a lazy way to move the plot along. But I enjoyed it because of the point that you made. It kind of sets the stage for what a big part of this season was going to be, the struggle between Cersei and Marjorie. Why do you keep smiling when I say that's her name, right? That's how you pronounce it.
I think you put an extra S on the end. Cersei.
What did I say?
You keep saying Cersei's.
Oh, okay. Maybe I did. Yeah, you're probably right. I probably did. My bad.
I wasn't going to point it out.
You were just going to smile at me every time I said it.
Sorry, I can't smile at you.
I mean, you threw me all off. Basically, I enjoyed that flashback. I also liked how last season 4, Tywin dies. And he's such a huge part of that show. It's such a huge part of that family. He's kind of the glue that holds that family together. So I liked seeing how they were going to react without them or without him. So I appreciated that part. And I do like the cliffhanger with Jon at the end. He's not always been my favorite character. I mean, he's a popular character and I understand why people like him. For me, it's mostly been, I don't like his storyline that much. I think with a show like this, and I felt the same way with Boardwalk Empire, there's just so many threads in these shows that there's certain threads that I'm just like, when that character comes on screen, I'm just like, okay, whatever. Like, and I just kind of check out a little bit. And that's how I feel about Jon Snow, because I really don't like his storyline. It feels so far away from everything else.
I can agree with that. I think we did a nerd favorite once with favorite Game of Thrones character, and I said Jon Snow's my favorite character. And while he's my favorite character, I don't like where he's at. I want to see him away from the wall. And we'll get into this in the next few episodes, but basically opportunities come for him to get away from the wall and he doesn't take them. And that really bums me out because I would love to see this character back in Winterfell.
Yeah, and he has an opportunity to do that. And like you said, he chooses to pass on that. And well, I mean, we don't want to spoil it.
We'll get to it.
Yeah, for sure. So episode 2, The House of Black and White. Tyler's already smiling.
So far, so good.
Tyler's already smiling because he knows the synopsis is coming. Man, I hate this. I hate this so much. I don't know what I was thinking when I started writing these. Anyways, it was released on April 19th. Arya arrives in Bravos.
Arya.
What did I say?
Arya.
That is close enough. That did not
you put an E in there, man. Arya. It's Arya. All right.
I'm not doing these anymore. I'm not kidding. I'm not doing them anymore. I quit.
Well, I feel like since we pointed out that you were going to be making mistakes, it's my job to point out the mistakes. I would have let that go, but I have to be faithful to the drinking game.
No, you don't. Are you done? Can I?
We'll see. Are you going to fuck up anymore?
I'm going to keep calling her Arya.
All right. That's fine. I'll let you.
You're right. I did put an extra E in there. It's definitely not an E in there. Jamie takes on a secret mission. Fuck her name. I'm not going to try her name. I'm done with this. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm for real. I'm not doing it anymore.
All right. That's fine.
So episode 2.
Episode 2. This is the first time this season we see Arya. She's not in the first episode. And as much as
Did you just say Arya?
No, I said Arya.
Okay. I think you said Arya.
This is the start of her storyline for the season, and I hate her storyline.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I think
oh my God, it's so annoying.
I think she's an awesome character, and she's going to eventually probably do awesome things in Westeros. But right now, the stuff she's doing with the League of Faceless People or whatever it's called.
The Many-Faced God?
Sure, the Many-Faced God. It's really lame, and I think that it's just a placeholder.
It's super weird.
Yeah, it's weird, it's lame, and it's just strange placeholder for her until other things come about, I think. So, not a huge fan of that. For the most part, I would say this is kind of a forgettable episode. Again, it's just moving the story along, but nothing major is happening with the plot. Not bad, just to me, it's not memorable.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in this episode, but very, very little of it is notable. Like, these are one of these, this is one of the episodes where I was just kind of like, okay, when I was watching, I was just blah. Like, it was on TV, but I wasn't all that interested in it. Yeah. But looking back, there was some good stuff. I mean, you finally get to see Dorne, but it's a little anticlimactic. Like, there's not a whole lot going on in Dorne. I liked that Jon got elected, Lord Commander.
Yeah.
That happens in this episode. I really liked it because it was the right choice. I mean, obviously you're supposed to root for Jon, and you kind of leading up, I was kind of like, yeah, I mean, he should be Lord Commander. That makes sense. Let's keep it to episode 2. I think he's the right choice, and I like how he'll make the unpopular choice. Like, he'll make the right choice, even if it's an unpopular one. So I thought he was a really good choice for Lord Commander, and I like that.
Yeah,
that
and I bet that never comes back to bite him in the ass.
Never. It's all great.
Yep.
Winter never came. Everything sunshine and rainbows.
Super respected by his peers.
Yeah, for sure. So episode 3 is called The High Sparrow. It was released on April 26th. I'm not doing the fucking synopsis, so you can kiss my ass.
I don't remember what it's about.
So what'd you feel about episode 3?
Kind of like episode 2. Another episode that moves the plot along. Nothing too incredible happens, except I love the stuff with Jon again, and I hate to keep being on Jon's dick like we were in episode 2 and a little bit in episode 1.
He by far has the best arc of the season.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like him naming Sir Alistair First Ranger, and then that Slint guy refusing to follow Jon's orders. I guess he's the one that got demoted, right? You know, John seems like he's been a very forgiving person throughout all the seasons. So whenever this guy refuses to obey his orders and John goes to execute him and he apologizes and, you know, he'll do what John says and John beheads himself anyways. Like, I thought that was a really strong moment.
And it reminded me a lot of his father in the first episode. Wasn't that in the pilot?
Yeah.
You were looking at me like with blank eyes.
No,
I was like, am I completely wrong there?
I mean, it's been 5 years since I've watched that, but yeah, Sean Bean's, God damn it, what is his name?
Ned Stark.
Fucking A. I can't even, like, I'm embarrassed that I forgot that, but, yeah.
It reminded me a lot of that, and I obviously that's probably what they were going for, so I really appreciated that. Like I said, I don't know if necessarily executing someone was the right choice, but I mean, it definitely was the unpopular one.
I mean, that bitch had it coming.
Oh yeah, for sure. He's been in past episodes, hasn't he? That character? I want to say that he was somebody in King's Landing, wasn't he?
I don't know.
Okay.
I
want to say that he was
the main character as well.
He was banished at one point, but
which would make sense because they would banish him to Castle Black.
Yeah, I want to say, I want to say that he was like the hand of the king, but that could be completely wrong. That might be somebody else that I'm thinking about. But, yeah, I really like John's arc in this season as a whole, especially this episode. Like I said, I think he was the right choice for Lord Commander because he will make the right choice, not necessarily the popular one.
Just real quick, I also enjoy Tyrion's adventures with Varys going to meet Daenerys.
Yep.
So not a ton happen. There's the cliffhanger involves him being abducted by Jorah, but I don't know. I like the dynamic between Tyrion and Varys, and it's been like a cool little buddy road trip at this point. So I don't know. I enjoy that. I'm glad that Jorah comes along and abducts him and speeds things along a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
But I mean, it's always great watching Peter Dinklage as Tyrion on the screen. So,
oh yeah,
for sure.
I really liked how there was that first happy marriage, I guess. Like, I mean, they had a wedding day on this show that didn't end up in someone dying or, spoiler alert, getting raped. Like, it was the first time that it was like, it happened and both parties were somewhat satisfied with it. So I appreciated that.
And Tommen gets fucking laid.
Baby face. You know who he reminds me of? Jakester. From AD PopCon. He looks exactly like that kid.
That dude was reeling in so much tail at Indie PopCon.
Yeah, he really was.
You're gonna leave that in?
I am now.
Kid is like 11 years old.
I really liked how, Cersei, there we go.
Good job.
She kind of gets desperate. Like, most of this show, she's been one step ahead of everybody, and she's kind of been in control. And I think this is the first time that she actually felt threatened. And so she got a little desperate, and she goes to, I don't remember the guy's name. He's the High Sparrow.
Yeah, I just know him as the High Sparrow.
Who was played by Jonathan, Pierce? Is it Pierce?
I think so.
Yeah, who is a fantastic character actor. I was happy to see him in the show. I am not a fan at all of the character or the storyline.
It's really weird.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Again, I guarantee this doesn't come back to bite Cersei in the ass.
No, not at all.
No, it's going to end well.
Yeah. She went to the wall with John and sunshine and rainbows. But that's all I got for episode 3. Another kind of one of those episodes that just kind of sets the stage for the rest of it's important in the scope of the season, but it necessarily wasn't my favorite episode.
I mean, the stuff that ends up happening needs a big stage. And
for sure.
That's what these first few episodes are setting up.
Yeah, it's a slow burn. I think I've said slow burn like 5 times this episode. Anyways, episode 4, Sons of the Harpy. It was released May 3rd, which I'll be real honest with you. Those guys in the mask didn't know they had a name until I was actually prepping for this episode. I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That's why it's called that. But anyways, that's a little embarrassing. So what did you think about episode 4?
So my first note that I had jotted down about episode 4 is Tommen is a little bitch.
Yeah.
And
Babyface. Jakester.
He very much is.
The only people that are going to get that joke are the people that hung out with us at Indie PopCon.
That's fine. All 2 of our listeners. YouTube him. He has a YouTube page.
Jakester.
You'll laugh later.
Yeah.
Hopefully Jakester doesn't get wind of this because he's
You have a very punchable face.
He's a giant in the YouTube community.
I guess. A giant.
We're digging our own grave.
A giant in a metaphorical sense.
He's going to bury us.
Anyways.
All right. So this is the episode where Margaret, I'm going to screw her name out. Marjorie, yeah. Marjorie Tyrell.
I don't know why I'm correcting you with a name.
She basically gets dragged off the prison by the High Sparrow and his minions. What are the minions called? All right. Fantastic.
I don't know. The masked guys in, Bravos are called the Sons of the Harpy.
No, Marjorie doesn't get dragged. I'm sorry. I fucked up. Marjorie doesn't get dragged off this episode. It's her brother, Laura's. For being a homosexual.
And they also have the montage where they go and shut down all the brothels.
Yeah.
Which I really liked, by the way.
Yeah. So it was basically, it was really good of showing the ramifications of what Cersei just did. So these, the High Sparrow, and I wish I knew, there's a name for this religious sect, and for whatever reason it's escaping me right now, but, just showing what handing them power did to King's Landing. They go through and they shut a bunch of stuff down and they kind of take control. So that was a really cool montage and, a really good plot point that I liked, even though the High Sparrow and his religious sect are a little weird. Like you said, I do like that they've kind of become more villainous in a way than Cersei. And we'll see that more in later episodes. Besides the Tommen being a little bitch and not helping out, Marjorie and her brother, even though he's the fucking king.
Yeah, I didn't get that at all.
Somebody tell this little shithole that he's a king and he can do whatever the fuck he wants. But, besides that, Jon Snow, again, just stay on his dick a little bit. This is kind of where Stannis showed up a couple episodes ago, but this is the episode, I believe, where Stannis gives Jon the offer to leave Castle Black and come with him to Winterfell, and he could be the Lord of Winterfell once Stannis has taken it.
And actually get the name Stark?
Yeah. Which is all awesome. It's like, dude, do it.
Yeah.
And of course, he's noble and loyal to the Night's Watch, and he doesn't do it. But
I thought that was a previous episode. But I don't mean to interrupt you, because I thought he got the offer and then he declined it, and then he became the Lord Commander. And that just kind of got lucky that worked out for him.
Yeah, you might be right. In this episode, Melisandre tries to use her sexy trickery to get him to come. So you're right. My bad. But still, doesn't change my opinion. I wish he would go to Winterfell. Like, I think that would be awesome for that character. Obviously, doesn't happen.
I mean, it works out perfectly for him, though. We've already talked about that. Nothing bad ever happens to him.
I mean, it's just this show knows what you want to happen. It knows the happy ending you want to happen. Like Jon Snow being Lord Commander and being a Stark in Winterfell, like we saw in season 1 when the Starks had Winterfell, is what everybody wants, and everybody would be ecstatic. But the show knows you want that.
Yeah.
Or George R.R. Martin knew you wanted that whenever he was writing the books, and they just like to tease you a little bit and then piss on your dreams. So in this episode, Jaime and Bronn are still in Dorne.
Which might be the most boring storyline of all the seasons.
That's actually my notes here is they basically, I know this happens in the book, but for this to happen the entire season, they basically needed something to do with these two characters.
I love Bronn. He's my favorite Game of Thrones character, but his arc in this season is just second rate. It's really bad.
I think this is a future episode, but I actually do like his little thing with one
of the sand snakes?
Yeah, one of the sand snakes. I think it's kind of cute. They're little.
No, I hated that. I fucking hated that. It was so creepy. But anyways.
I thought it was kind of funny. But basically, yeah, they didn't know really what to do with Jaime and Bronn for a season, but they couldn't write him off the show like Hodor. So, they had to stick him in Dorne for 10 episodes or 8 episodes or whatever it ended up being.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm glad you brought up that storyline because I hated it. I don't really I'm not going to really talk about it just because it's so boring to me.
Yeah.
But anyways.
I won't touch on it again, I don't think, till episode 10
really?
when something actually happens.
Yeah. And what actually happened, spoiler alert, is not that great.
Yeah. Sorry.
Anyways, one big thing, you kind of touched on a lot of the stuff that I was going to bring up with this episode, but one thing that you didn't bring up, which I'm kind of surprised because it was the big thing for me in this episode, was the fact that Stannis and his daughter, that was really touching to me.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you're supposed to hate Stannis. Like, he's not a very likable character, but you start to kind of feel for him in this episode for the first time, really. I mean, that feeling doesn't last very long.
I was going to say, this is a turning point for the character, like Father of the Year.
Yeah.
Nothing bad happens in there.
Everybody just ends up at the wall.
With the rainbow going across
sunshine and rainbows, yeah. Winter never comes. Everybody's great.
I actually had this note for a different episode, but I can go ahead and say it now. Say what you will about Stannis and like him being a dick. He is the rightful king. Like
technically.
All these little blonde boys are product of incest with Jaime and Cersei. So when Robert Baratheon dies, he doesn't have any kids except for his bastard who won't get it. So his brother, his next eldest brother, Stannis, would get it.
Yeah.
So
how did Robert become king? I don't remember.
The Targaryens.
Oh yeah, that's right. So Daenerys is the one that.
So technically, Daenerys should be, except for her uncle, I think, is the Mad King, or her dad is the Mad King. I have to look at a family tree because there's so many goddamn characters and it's so hard to follow, but he kind of fucked that up for her. So I don't really, Stannis should be king. Hopefully nothing bad happens to him.
Nope. Nothing bad happens in the rest of the season.
Or to his daughter.
I mean, never mind. I was going to make a stupid joke. Anyways, episode 5, Kill the Boy, May 10th. So what'd you feel about episode 5?
Could you refresh my memory on what this episode's about?
Go fuck
with a brief
yourself.
synopsis?
Go fuck yourself.
This is actually the episode I had the least amount of notes for. So the ending of it is a cliffhanger where Jorah gets grayscale whenever he's transporting Tyrion and they're attacked by the men with grayscale. I could give two shits about that.
And it doesn't they never make a mention of it. I mean, He occasionally looks at his arm, but that's it. And this show is so great about not having loose threads. And obviously it's going to play a part next season, but it's just kind of disappointing that they didn't make more of it this season.
Again, this episode just has stuff moving the plot along. Like Jon says, yeah, I'll go beyond the wall and we'll do that. And obviously that sets up for something big that happens in a few episodes. Sansa reunites with Reek a little bit and that sets up the rest of her arc for the rest of the season. So a lot of things kind of moving the puzzle pieces into place, but nothing memorable happens. And like I said, I had two shits about Jorah.
You finally get to see some dragon action though.
Yeah.
I mean, they've teased it so much to all of these seasons. I felt like this was the first season we really got to see them do anything. And so I kind of liked that.
Besides just fly around.
Yeah. I didn't like how, and you mentioned the Mad King, she kind of reminded me of, obviously we'd never seen him in the show.
Yeah. But
it kind of reminded me of something that he would have done. So that kind of bothered me a little bit because she's trying to distance herself so much from her father or uncle or whatever. I'm almost positive it was her father.
Yeah.
Because that little blonde bitch always used to talk about their father.
Yeah. I mean, that would make sense.
Yeah.
The little blonde bitch isn't her brother.
But anyways, it doesn't matter she's either his daughter or his niece. It doesn't matter. Either way, it seems like it would be something that he would do. So that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I liked is a weird word to describe it, but I thought it was interesting.
She's a product of incest. I just found it out.
Oh, really? So it is daughter/niece?
Yes, that is accurate.
Okay, cool. Anyways, we kind of get a taste of Ramsay in the bed I don't know why I said it so weird when he's Ramsay having sex. He's a fucking freak. and so it does not look good for Sansa.
No, God, I fucking hate Ramsay so much.
Oh yeah. I mean, obviously you're supposed to hate him.
I know, but out of every character on Game of Thrones ever, I think I hate him the most of anyone.
That makes sense. I can't even,
sure.
I mean, obviously out of sight, out of mind, but I mean, he's just like the closest to my thought process right now. But yeah, he's awful. I actually kind of feel sorry for the guy playing him.
Yeah.
Because I don't think anyone's ever going to think of him any other way.
Yeah. There was actually this funny video that came out a few weeks ago, or it might have been like a month ago, and Chris Martin put it out, and it's like this spoof video, and it was to benefit some charity, and I don't remember what the charity is, but he's basically says he's doing a Game of Thrones musical, and he ends up getting a lot of the cast to come for it. And there's this funny scene between the actor that plays Ramsay and the actor that plays Theon.
I think I saw a bit of that.
Yeah, they're at like a buffet, and they pick up like a sausage or something, and there's like this funny moment. But yeah, I highly suggest looking up that video. It's pretty funny if you watch the show.
All right, man. I mean, that's all I got for episode 5.
Yeah, so going on to episode 6.
Yep. This one's gonna get a little awkward. So episode 6, Unbowed, Unbent, Unbroken, aired May 17th. So Tyler, we've talked about this, I think, in a past episode when it first aired. How do you feel about episode 6?
I won't beat around the bush. It's controversial. I don't want to get too opinionated here because I don't want to come off weird, or I don't want to talk about this too much on the episode and listen to you say the R word over and over. Which
what R word? Rape?
Yeah, rape. So honestly, everything that happens in this episode for me is overshadowed by the end. What happens with Sansa and Ramsay, because there was such outcry about it after the episode aired. And for me, this show is constantly pushing boundaries. And this show is constantly doing terrible things like what we'll see in the next few episodes and what we've seen in past seasons. And what happens to Sansa is a terrible thing.
The rape.
Yeah. Whenever Sansa's raped, it's terrible. And I mean, nobody wants to sit there and watch that, but
except for Theon, apparently.
He was told, I mean, I don't know.
I honestly thought when it started that he was going to come in and actually like save the day, like have his redemption story. And then he just sits there and cries like a little bitch.
Yeah. I don't know what to say. Why don't you talk?
It's very disturbing, and it'll stick with me for a little bit. Like, just seeing him watch them, it's such an eerie scene.
It makes you feel dirty.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But again, I wasn't offended by it. Like,
because you're pro-rape.
I'm not pro-rape at all. But
that's a callback.
This show, like, I don't want to say I expect it from this show, but if people who consistently watch this show were just like so disgusted by it and like, I'm done watching Game of Thrones because of that, it's like, we've seen just as bad things happen before in the last 4 seasons. Like, I just don't understand how that was the tipping point for people. I
think a lot of people were upset because it's been used as a plot device before. I think that's something that people were upset about. Because I don't think it's something, obviously it's not something that should be just thrown out there just willy-nilly.
I mean, it's not like the audience needs another reason to hate Ramsay, because I hated Ramsay a ton before it. But they're just driving home the point that he's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And I wish I had read it. I saw an article before we started recording. I guess Sophie Turner was interviewed at Comic-Con or something about that scene. And Sophie Turner, for those of you who don't know, is the actress that plays Sansa, and they kind of wanted her take on it. And I wish I had read the article, but I saw a little excerpt just talking about how she said Sansa was really strong in that scene because she could have fought back and she didn't. And
yeah.
I don't want to take that out of too much out of context, so I'll kind of leave it at that. But definitely check out that interview with her just to kind of see what the actress who portrayed that has to think about it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, getting away from that, the Braun and Jamie fight, very boring. This storyline again is just one of the worst I've seen in the show up until this season. And then the fight scene that they had been building towards really is just very anticlimactic. So, I was very disappointed with that because obviously Braun is my favorite character, but I felt like with this episode, it felt very much like it was revving up for the last few episodes. So I was excited. Well, I don't want to say excited because of that last scene, but I was, how do I say this and not? I was looking forward to the upcoming episodes because I knew it was only gonna get better. I mean, I had my problems with some of the boring aspects of the previous episodes, but I could definitely tell that it was getting better. And I just know that this show has a reputation of kind of, building towards season finales. So I was definitely looking forward to the rest of the season.
All right, cool.
So episode 7 is titled The Gift, aired May 24th. And what did you think about The Gift?
So this is the episode where what really stands out to me about it is, for the most part, Cersei getting kind of what's coming to her. So towards the end of this episode, she gets basically arrested and imprisoned for her own crimes. Believe it or not, her kind of getting with the High Sparrow and putting his religious sect in charge comes back to bite her in the ass. Which,
I love how it backfires on her.
I mean, that rarely happens in Game of Thrones. Things backfire, but it does for Cersei here, and
it hasn't for her up until this point.
Yeah, she's a character that I hate for a lot of reasons. I mean, mostly because she's a piece of shit for 4 seasons. Yeah. So, for me, she gets what's coming to her.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I did enjoy that. But besides that, the biggest thing to happen here, obviously, is Tyrion meeting Daenerys for the first time. So, again, I've mentioned that my buddies read the book and they're always talking about it, and they've said that Tyrion never meets Daenerys in the book. Like, that's yet to happen. So the fact that he meets her, and he meets her not in the middle of the season, but with a few episodes to spare before the end to kind of give their relationship a little bit of blossoming to see what's going to happen between them is pretty cool. Like, I like how he's presented in front of her and he introduces himself, and we're kind of left hanging with that. So I thought that was huge. That was probably my favorite moment of the season, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It didn't connect that way with me. I appreciated that they met finally, and I liked how they didn't drag it out, because I feel like they've had other storylines, especially like the White Walkers, where they'll just kind of leave it hanging for a while. So I liked how they didn't really drag it out, and then they did finally meet, but I just didn't make the connection it seems that you did.
Yeah.
I also liked how she kind of got what was coming to her, that the plan backfired. But one thing that I really appreciated was, again, Jon made what I thought was the right call. Obviously definitely the unpopular choice. And I loved how, Ghost saved Sam at the end of the episode. I mean, I'm a huge dog lover, so I get a little soft when it comes to stuff like that. So I really appreciate that part of the episode. And they kind of dropped the wolf thing. Like they don't come through very often, but when they do, it's really cool.
If only there were another part of this season where it would have been beneficial for Ghost to save someone. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll get to it.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yep. Because we're only on episode 7.
Yeah. Well, this is the episode where Braun has that awkward conversation in jail. I mean, I liked how they planted that poison. So obviously that comes into play later in the season. But for me, it's just, he's an old dude, especially considering the time period, or the fictional time period. Obviously, he's an old dude.
When you put it like that, it's weird, like the age difference.
Oh yeah,
for me,
sure.
While I think I like that kind of stuff and them flirting back.
That you're a pedophile?
No. I kind of like where there's a dynamic like that. So what it reminds me of, and might be completely unfounded, but Batman and Catwoman.
Yeah.
So they're on opposite sides of.
But they're somewhat close in age.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about age. I'm just talking about like the dynamic.
Well, that's my problem with it.
Like they're on different sides of the fence, but they still have like this flirty relationship, and it's kind of cool. So that's kind of how I perceived it, I guess. Not so much. I didn't put a lot of stock into the age difference, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it was creepy to me. I liked how Stannis kind of refused to give up his daughter, even though he was in a tight space, I guess, or a tight spot. I liked how he kind of stuck to his guns there, and it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier in the season. One of his rare redeeming qualities is the fact that he really loves his daughter. And so I thought that was pretty touching, especially considering he's basically anything his red-haired bottom bitch says to do, he does. So I liked how he kind of disobeyed her in a sense. So I appreciated that, which obviously, I mean, everything's sunshine and rainbows in that storyline. So no, that's not going to turn out bad at all. All right. I was hoping that you would get a little bit more back and forth with that, but you kind of left me hanging there.
I'm sorry. I'm super distracted by this Targaryen family tree. It's a fucking puzzle, man.
Anyways, so on to episode 8.
Ooh,
Hard
episode
Home. 8. Yep. May 31st. So I don't know about you, Tyler, but this is by far my favorite episode of this season.
For sure.
And probably one of my favorite episodes of the show.
Yeah, 100%. I mentioned that Tyrion meeting Daenerys was one of my favorite moments of the season, but this is by far my favorite episode. It's just awesome.
I really appreciated the fact that we finally really get to see the White Walkers. I'm a huge fan of the zombie genre. And so that fight was fantastic. I loved how he kind of raised his hands and they all basically came back to life. Thought that was badass. And Jon Snow actually killing a White Walker, I thought that was pretty cool because up until this point, fat bitch Sam is the only one that's been able to say that he killed one. So yeah. I thought that was pretty badass. And so Jon will be able to tell that for the rest of his life.
It's not been answered, but why was he able to kill a White Walker without Valyrian steel?
Isn't that what his sword's made out of?
No, I don't think so. I don't want to, let's save that for episode 10.
Okay.
Just because I don't want to spoil what happens in episode 10.
But I'm almost certain that that's what his
you might be right, but
I think they say it in this episode.
I thought I read a theory on why what happens to him in episode 10 doesn't matter because he was able to kill a White Walker without Valyrian steel, so that means he's something. I don't know. I don't know. I guess I'm not comfortable enough or familiar enough with the theory to talk about it, so I'll just leave it alone.
All right, cool. I loved how you get to see Cersei in kind of a vulnerable position because you haven't seen that yet in this series. And I kind of loved how she was still talking shit to the woman bringing her water, even though she has no power at this point.
Yeah.
I loved how she was still really proud and trying to show force, even though she had literally no leverage whatsoever. So I appreciate that part of her character because it feels true to who we know she is up until this point. So I appreciated that. I do like, what's her name? I'm going to put the extra E in it.
Arya?
Yeah. I loved how I hated her storyline throughout pretty much the entire season, but I liked how she was kind of, stalking this one guy with the oyster tray. And it kind of reminded me of, playing Assassin's Creed. Just that vibe of the city and kind of like sneaking around and pretending.
A good comparison.
Yeah, I liked that a lot. I mean, it doesn't really play out the way I wanted it to, but I liked those few scenes in this episode. So I appreciate that. It's probably the one time this whole season where I really liked her storyline.
Yeah, I like also in this episode that Sansa finds out from Reek/Theon that her younger brothers aren't dead.
Oh yeah, I forgot that happened.
She's gone for so long thinking that Theon had killed them. And obviously we all know that he faked their deaths. So that was, at least she has some comfort there after what happened to her in, the episode before the last. So I'm kind of curious to see if she'll pursue that, in future seasons, like finding her younger brothers.
Yeah, for sure. So that's all I have for episode 8. Like I said, it's probably one of my favorite episodes of the show to begin with. Definitely one of my favorite episodes of this season. Episode 9, The Dance of Dragons, was aired June 7th. So Tyler, what do you think of episode 9? I forgot for a second there. What?
Just when I started to like Stannis.
Yeah.
So Stannis burned her. He doesn't do it personally, but he has his daughter burned at the stake to help, like with her sacrifice, helping bring him victory, in the north.
Yep.
And
they needed king's blood
Yeah. So since she obviously has king's blood, so since she's his descendant, she bites it, which is rough because it's a child being burned at the stake.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. It's a rough scene to watch because obviously she trusts her father. She doesn't think anything's going to happen. And then when she realizes what's going on, it's pretty heartbreaking.
Yeah. Just that whole scene, I mean, is weird to me. I understand why it has to happen, and I understand how it moves the plot along and kind of turns Stannis again so that the audience is against him. But the fact that her mom is just cool with it.
Oh, well, at first.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into what happens with her in episode 10, but, you know, she kind of gives them this blessing, which is just a strange situation to me. Also in episode 9, it's the cool scene at the fighting pit.
Yeah, where they're all of them kind of standing back to back and fighting together, protecting her. I thought that was really cool.
I mean, she bails super quick when Drogon shows up. And I feel like, you know, that dragon breathes fire. She could have probably
helped out a little bit more,
you know, done her part a little bit, but she just fucking bails and does not give a shit about everybody else.
Yeah.
I actually saw a meme that kind of compared it to what people say about Titanic, where they said there's enough room on that boat for 2 people.
Yeah.
It's like there's enough room for a couple more people on that dragon. So
yeah,
I mean, none of them get killed, so it's not a huge deal. But it was cool seeing Drogon swoop in and save the day.
Oh yeah, I mean that's pretty much all I have for episode 9 as well. You kind of touched the 2 big things that I wanted to talk about as well.
All right, cool.
All right, so we'll just go ahead and get right into the season finale, episode 10, Mother's Mercy, which aired June 14th. There is a lot going on in this episode. So what do you think, Tyler?
It wraps up a lot of stuff and kills off a lot of people.
Yep.
Well, allegedly. So a lot of deaths happen off screen and a lot of deaths are questioned. So Stannis dies,
bites it,
but you don't see him bite it. So if
he did.
If somebody dies off screen, do they really die?
Yeah.
His wife hangs herself. He basically, a bunch of terrible shit happens to him, and Melisandre bails and he decides to invade the north anyways, and his forces get stomped, and then Brienne of Tarth gets to kill Stannis, and it cuts away right before she slices his head off. So
I like that she kind of got some redemption, not redemption, that's not a good word, revenge. She got to finally do her duty.
Yeah, but that's, I mean, say what you will, Stannis is the true king. Not the guy that she was serving. I forget what's his name. Stannis' little brother.
Oh, I don't even remember. What was he in the first season? That was it.
He's the one who gets killed by the, like, smoke monster.
Yeah.
Brienne says the smoke monster with the face of Stannis Baratheon.
Yeah.
So, he didn't last very long, but at the same time, bitch needs to shut up. He's not the rightful king. Stannis is.
Stannis is dead, though.
Yeah. Well, probably. I mean, I hope so. Again, why keep Stannis around at this point? Like,
yeah.
It'd be fitting for him to end that way, especially after the tragic things that happened in the prior episode with him and his daughter. Let's see. Terrible things happened to Cersei in this episode as well. It almost made me feel sorry for her. I mean, that was a pretty heart-wrenching scene, watching her be paraded through the streets naked and having all sorts of gross things hurled at her. But
it's the most human we've seen her.
For sure. I mean, she's still a terrible person, and I don't think I feel too sorry for her.
Yeah, it's hard to feel sorry for that character.
I know that a lot of people have. That kind of changed a lot of people's heart about her, just because nobody should be put through that and yada, yada, yada. But look at the last 4 seasons, she's still a bitch.
Oh yeah, for sure.
She's still a terrible person. So it's hard for me to feel too sorry for her, especially because at the end, she has the zombie mountain resurrected.
Which I had forgotten that was even going on. Like, that's so stupid to me.
Yeah, it's really weird. I want to say in the books, he doesn't have a head.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I guess you can't really plausibly do that. And forgive me if I'm wrong, book readers, but I want to say I read that in the books he doesn't have a head whenever he's resurrected.
That's super weird.
It's a super weird altogether that there's a zombie person. I mean, I guess we put up with White Walkers, so why can't we put up with Frankenmountain? But
Frankenmountain. I like that.
But, you know, the end of the season, she's going to be okay. She has Frankenmountain to go kill all these people.
Hashtag Frankenmountain. No, but speaking of weird, the many-faced God thing. Yeah. That whole, oh my God, that was so fucking weird to me.
So what, she's blind now? Like,
yeah, I guess.
That's dumb.
Yeah. Well, I thought it's weird to criticize a show that has dragons and zombies and call her taking his face off, that scene, super weird. But I just didn't like it.
But it was super weird.
It was super weird, but, to say a show like this jumps the shark when they have that going on, I mean, especially with the dragons and the zombies and all the other stuff, the Frankenmountains. It just rolls off your tongue, man.
Yeah, for sure.
It feels weird criticizing something like that, but it just seemed too far.
Her storyline is just like a clusterfuck.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's been weird the whole season, and it ends really weird. It's just a waste of a strong character to me.
Oh yeah.
And I understand that, like, that's what she does in the books, and that's not something that the show's just putting her off on, but you gotta do something better with such a strong character.
Yeah. So what's your theory on Jon Snow?
I don't know. The obvious theory is he's not going to stay dead. Like Melisandre, they purposely show her coming back to Castle Black, and she's resurrected people before. She could theoretically resurrect Jon Snow. I've read all sorts of stuff saying Kit Harington, the actor that plays Jon Snow, to the showrunners, to just everybody involved, like, he's dead. He's really dead.
Yeah.
For sure. This is where George R.R. Martin's book leaves off with that character, is him dying. And I believe that in the book, his last word is ghost. So some people have theorized that he does what Bran does. And I forget what the word in this universe is called, but he basically puts his mind into Wolf's body.
Yeah.
Again,
which is super weird.
Which would be weird. But, you know.
I can't remember what it's called, but I made a funny joke about it one time on Facebook. I was really proud of myself.
Everybody has theorized, and I don't know if it's confirmed or not, but it's a song of ice and fire.
Yep.
So Jon Snow is ice and Daenerys is fire.
Okay.
And it's just hard to believe if that's true. And there's all sorts of theories out there about his parentage and him being, actually really important. Basically, the theory is that he's a Targaryen. What is Ned Stark's sister's name that was in love with, or that Robert Baratheon was in love with?
You're on your own, man.
I know. And people that are so familiar with Game of Thrones are just going to be yelling at us for not knowing all these names. But the theory is that, so Robert Baratheon goes to get her back.
Yeah.
And she ends up dying. The theory is that whenever she was kidnapped by this Targaryen, I believe it was Rhaegar, I could be wrong, but whenever she was
probably are.
But when she was kidnapped, she wasn't necessarily kidnapped. She was there of her own free will, and she was in love with him, and she was pregnant, and she had a baby, and the baby's Jon Snow. So he's a Targaryen, and Ned Stark knew that if Robert Baratheon found that out, that he would kill Jon Snow, and this is Ned Stark's nephew, so he says that it's his bastard. Because, you know, the character Ned Stark is very noble and,
yeah, it would seem weird to me that I've always thought that. He seemed like he's the type of character when you watch these shows that you always think that you would be.
Yeah.
And he's just kind of the upstanding kind of guy. Like he always does the right thing. And it just seems out of character that he would cheat on his wife.
Yeah, for sure. So that being said, with him being a Targaryen, even though he would still be, I guess, considered Rhaegar or whoever it was, I believe, I'm almost 100% it was Rhaegar. Forgive me if I'm wrong. Even though he would technically be his bastard, he'd have some kind of claim to the throne, actually.
Sure.
Or he'd at least be, you know, in Daenerys' favor.
Sure.
Like they would go get the throne together or whatever that turns out to be. So the fact that there's so many possibilities that you could go with that character, it's hard to believe that he's just dead and that storyline's over. But, you know, maybe that's people just not being able to believe it. Not being able to take the cliffhanger. Or I guess it's not really a cliffhanger. I mean, he dies.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That
I like the character. Like I said previous, I don't necessarily like some of the stuff that's happening around him, so I don't really like his storyline, but I really like the character, and I was bummed that he died, but I would feel weird if they brought him back, because I feel like they would just force it.
If they are planning on bringing him back, I hope they don't like stretch it throughout all of season 6 and it be something that happens later in the season. Like, don't keep us waiting and don't have his body decaying. Like, either bring him back or don't.
Yeah, for sure.
I guess there was a petition online for Kit Harington to cut his hair because he has like his crazy big Jon Snow hair right now. And like in his contract, he has to keep that hair for the character.
Yeah, for sure.
And people are saying, well, if you're really dead and you're not coming back, cut your fucking hair.
Yeah.
And he has yet to cut his fucking hair. So.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, it's that dude's hair at the same time. Like, maybe he likes it that way. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, we'll see. And
I'd like to see him as much as I enjoyed the character. I would like to see somebody just be done.
I mean, there are tons of people that are just done.
I just feel like I said, it would feel like they were forcing it.
If none of, like I just talked about a lot of fan theories and stuff like that, like nobody knows for sure. Like maybe he is Ned Stark's bastard and he's not really that important in the grand scheme of things. If none of those theories are true, then yeah, I mean, kill him. Like that's fine. We've had a lot of surprising character deaths. It moves the plot along and it keeps the audience invested. But I would hate to see one of those theories being true and them not exploring it a little bit.
Sure.
Like if he's a Targaryen, I think that'd be fucking rad.
Yeah.
But he does have black hair and the Targaryens have crazy blonde hair. So
yeah,
again, who knows?
As long as it's feasible and it doesn't feel like they're just stretching it just so they can keep that character, I'm fine with it. But I kind of feel like that scene is cheapened if he comes back, because that's a really powerful scene. It's well done.
Oh, for sure.
I appreciate that he was kind of graceful. Like once he realized what was going on, he didn't fight back. He just kind of
bitch Ollie even stats.
Yeah. And I mean, he accepts it. Not like he just gives up, but I feel like he was very like graceful about it.
So here's another thing. You know, you're with the Night's Watch till death. Well, he's dead. And now he gets brought back. Is he allowed to like leave without any qualms about it?
Well, if that's kind of what I'm thinking. Like, I don't want him to be a zombie Jon Snow. Like, if there's a logical reason why he comes back, then I'm fine with it.
Well, there's another character that says he's been brought back tons of times by Melisandre, and I forget the character's name, but he's like missing an eye and missing parts of his body that he had been killed from. Like he doesn't grow that back or anything, but she resurrects him. So he's not necessarily a zombie, but I guess the same thing could theoretically happen in Jon Snow.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So I don't know.
Maybe that's a way for them to get him out of being on the Night's Watch.
I guess what's going to piss me off is if he comes back and they keep, like, everybody's so adamant that he's really dead. And I feel like I don't know. I know they're trying to keep us invested until the season airs next year, but like, just be honest. Like, don't lie. Just say like no comment or something.
Sure. Well, that's all I have for season 5.
Yeah, I mean, overall, a great season. I don't think there's been a bad season of Game of Thrones, though.
No.
I've been thinking a lot lately about what my favorite TV show is, and I think it honestly has to be Game of Thrones right now. It's a show that I keep up with pretty regularly, and I'm very invested in. So if I had to say what my favorite show right now is, it'd be Game of Thrones. It was Parks and Rec for a long time until that ended, but out of the shows that are airing now, probably Game of Thrones.
I really like Louis.
Yeah, I mean, Louis is a great show.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of favorite, let's go ahead and just go right into our nerd favorite.
And just staying on the Game of Thrones tip of things, we'll go ahead and since this is my week, I'll ask you what your favorite Game of Thrones season so far is.
All right, cool.
So mine is season 4.
Okay.
I think that's a great season for Tyrion especially. It just has its ups and downs with him so much. I mean, it starts off with Joffrey dying, which is great. And everybody, I mean, I love that. I hated that character so much. And then Tyrion is put through the ringer in that season. And the way that he kind of comes around at the end and gets his redemption, especially with Tywin, killing Tywin. A lot of bad things happened to Tyrion, but it was nice to see him kind of redeem himself there and, kind of escape from the Lannisters and get off on his own. So I really like the ups and downs of season 4, especially the battle between the Mountain and Oberyn. I thought that was awesome. That was so great and so heart-wrenching. And it was awesome seeing Oberyn's eyes gouged out and just really cool stuff. So season 4, I think, is my favorite so far.
I hate to have like a knee-jerk reaction, but the show builds on itself so well that I feel like I kind of have to pick season 5. Like, you made a really strong case for season 4, but the more I thought about it, the more I really enjoyed this season. And like I said, it is a slow burn. There are a couple episodes here and there that at first viewing were kind of dry, but now that I've prepped and we've kind of talked about them, I really appreciate them a little bit more. So I'm going to go with season 5, especially because it pays off so well.
Oh, yeah.
The last few episodes is so, there's a lot of action. We finally get to see White Walkers. We finally really get to see the dragons. Like, everything that they've been kind of teasing along the way kind of comes to the forefront. So I really appreciate that. So I know it's kind of a knee-jerk reaction, but I'm going to go with season 5.
Yeah, I was very close to picking season 5. Season 5 was amazing.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm really looking forward to the next season, obviously.
Yeah, I hate the wait.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But yeah, before we know it, it'll be here.
All right, cool, man. As always, you can follow us on Twitter at The Nerds Podcast, like us on Facebook, follow us on Google+, subscribe to our new YouTube channel. Email us at thenerdsyou'relooking@gmail.com. Vote for us for Podcast of the Month at podcastland.com. Rate, review, subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, basically any podcast directory. We're on it. I think that's about it.
All right. Awesome, man.
All right. For Patrick Kuhn,
Tyler Hunt.
we are the nerds you're looking for. Take it easy, guys.
See you guys.